You have an opportunity to stop the world and say, hello, here I am. I'm right here, and take a look at me. You know what? You need, hold on, because let me bring this back into perspective. Okay, hold on, let me get this together. Okay, so you have an opportunity to say to the world, hello, here I am, me in my 80s glasses, and more importantly, I've got something to say, I've got something to share with you, I've got something to make you stop. The art of marketing is getting the market to stop and look at you long enough for them to lean in. Your very first objective is to ask yourself, how many places am I actually telling my story? If you're trying to market with colors and fonts and great visuals and things like that, you're literally wasting your time. You change the game by using your story in your words, in your fonts, in your text, and your video. Your story is truly the only thing that separates you from the market. It's a fact. Your story is the only thing that actually separates you from the market, which means that when you think about this next level, it's like question number one, how many places am I actually telling my story? How many places am I actually telling my story? How many places am I not telling my story? How many people am I telling my story to? How many people am I not telling my story to? Because I know that we may say, well, Tiffany, I have my story, but I know that I tell my story when I meet with people. I tell my story when I connect with, I tell my story, but it's like your story has to be before the conversation. Your story should be clear as plain as day in your Eventbrite, in your events that you're promoting. It should be on your about page, sure, but here's what your story is not. Your story is not, Tiffany Largie has been a entrepreneur for many years, touching the world and helping people do ... Listen, it's your story, the thing that the world hasn't heard before. That's what your world needs. That's what the world is looking for. That's what the world is fighting for. It's your story, but it's your story in many places. Your story should look the same whether I look at it in written text, in video, in an expert. How many places are you telling your story? At a minimum, it should be about 7. Now, starting tomorrow, there's actually going to be some worksheets that you can get. We're going to take what we're teaching and put it into a concept that you can boil down to and breathe and sit inside of. So you want to be in tune. Today, we got a late start because I have been overran by the coronavirus. No, but I've definitely been overran with questions. And it's really a great question that I've been getting. I've had so many phone calls, people text me and email me, Tiffany, this has happened to my business because of what's happening in the world. What do I do? And I'm grateful and honored that I get that question, but I've also been in business now for 16 years. Like I don't know all of the answers, but I definitely know how to weather a storm. I absolutely know how to survive in cash when there's no cash around. I know exactly how I know exactly how to ... but it's not because of any other reason than my experience dictates that I go, oh, this is what's in front of us? Oh, I get that. I super see it. Don't worry about it. I know exactly what we're after, and I know exactly how to get there. Now, the very first thing that I talk to them about and I ask, it's like, okay, great. How consistent is your story, and how many places is it told before you open your mouth? Your story should be preceding everything you do. I shouldn't get to your story afterwards, because in theory, let's go back to the basics. What problem am I solving? Who am I solving it for? What gives me the right? Why do I want to solve it? Is all boiled down to your story. If I were to stalk you online right now, if I were to stalk you online right this second, what would we see? Would I see your story in a tiny little place? Would I see a little quote from you? Would I see something over here? Or am I going to be like, psh, 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 psh? man, this story is everywhere. Your story should be in front of me when I get to you. So that way, when I get to you, I'm like biting. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so exciting. So please, in the chat, I'm going to ask you to plug in these words: story first, story first, story first, story first. Now, there's a big difference between telling your story and then telling the timeline of your story. Let me tell you what your story is and then what the timeline version. So the timeline version of your story dictates that you're going to go 25 years ago, I was a single mom, this thing happened, it was uncomfortable, it was very frustrating, I didn't like it, here's what it caused me to do, blah, 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 blah. And those things are valid, but I'm going to tell you the truth. Telling your story is a lot bigger and more important than just let me tell it in a couple of places and in a couple of ways. Telling your story is 100% about you giving me the emotion in your story that dictates that I'm connected to you emotionally here. Well, the last time you told your story, did you tell the timeline, or did you tell your story with the emotion and the feeling as it sat? Because if you didn't tell your story with the emotion and as it sat, then there's a good chance that you not only left money on the table, but you left emotions. You left prospects on the table, okay? So your story, I want you to think of it as a calling card. And in business, we have to have not just one calling card, but we've got to have a handful of calling cards that dictate that I know exactly how to tell my story. Now, I'm going to show you this drawing because I think it's important, because we taught this at our live event, okay? And this is how it all started. I took the time to think through what is our story, what's the Tiffany Largie story, and it dictated that I knew these three things. So number one, I knew that in order to tell my story, I needed to communicate. Can you see that? Can you put house if you can see this in the chat, please? Okay. No, you're not late. I'm late. Okay, so I want you to think of how you tell your story. So I tell my story through a handful of things, but what I don't do is I don't tell my story. I don't have anyone else tell my story for me. And the reason why I don't do that is because the second that I stop telling my story, someone else is going to tell my story and they're going to get it wrong. Which means that in marketing, I'm not going to generate the lead that I want. I'm also going to be convoluted with the way I'm telling my story, and I'm going to be frustrated. You can barely see it. Hold on, let's see. Can you see it now? Okay, so in every part of the story, can you see it now? Can you say house if you can see this? I'll tell you what it says, but I just want to make sure you can see it. So this is me. It's all white. Was that racial? I love it. I'm having my own fun. Listen, so what's important is that my story is in my marketing house, okay? So before I taught this on stage, this is literally, I drew this out because I needed to see, this is how we market. This is how we market. This is how we build our business. This is how we attack marketing. So everything lives in my marketing house, okay? And this is where those pretty slides you saw at the event. And in my marketing house, there are different rooms. Tomorrow, I think I'm going to produce the slides on this to show you this. But there are different rooms. And in my marketing house, I have the kitchen, I have the living room, I have the kitchen, I have the living room, I have the bedrooms, I have the bathroom, so I have different rooms, okay? Now, let me be clear that in each room, I can only have a handful of very simple things. So here we are, we're gonna draw this again. I wasn't gonna show you, but I decided to show you because I think it's important. So over here, in this room, we have certain things that are true to me. So we have certain clothes, we have the way those clothes are worn, we have shoes, okay, and we have high heels. Oh, and this is the kitchen. And this has to do with my heritage. It has to do with my style, which is Miami, where I'm from. Over here, we have bourbon, wine, and café con leche and chocolate, which is in the family room. This is how I like to relax. So when I think of telling my story, I take elements of who I am and I attach it to a photo or video. And in attaching it to a photo or video, I then tell my story. Now, my story comes with a handful of structured ways for me to communicate. So there's an objective with every post, with every video. But if done in the right way, what you do is you stop the market and the market goes, oh, let me lean in. The hardest part of being in business is getting someone to lean in. The hardest part of being in business is getting someone to lean in. The hardest part of being in business is to get someone to lean in. The hardest part of being in business is getting someone to lean in. The second hardest part of business is getting someone to lean in long enough where they go, huh? What's that? What you saying? Can I ask you a question? Let me hear more about it. So as you think about building your story, I want you to ask yourself, one, how many places is my story right now without me having to lift a finger? I don't mean with a new social media post. How many places does my story live outside of my knowledge house and my ability to tell the story right now? So that's the first question. The second thing I'm going to tell you is when someone hears my story, what does it make them do? When they hear my story, what does it have them do? Okay. How many places, so question number one is how many places is your story being told? Number two, when they land on your story, are they taking action? If they're taking action and the answer is yes, great. If the answer is no, why not? If they are not taking action, the question is why not? When you think about locking down your storytelling, the easiest place to start is online. One of my favorite places to start is on Facebook. And LinkedIn, I love LinkedIn, I love Instagram, but make no mistake about it, Facebook, I can put my story in so many different places. So there are 5 key places respectively that I can put my story. I can put it in a place that's static, that doesn't have me go anywhere, and that more importantly, if someone stumbles upon me, that they're able to go, you know what? I for sure, absolutely, I totally know, I at least know enough to know that I'm going to take a step. Now, when someone gets involved in your story, what you want them to be able to do is to take action. So wherever your story is placed, right now, can the person listening, reading, watching, can they take action? Can they take action? Or is it tough for them? So after I engage with my story, after I do the marketing, I then need to take action. I need to take action. Okay. Now the question is, how do they take action? Are you encouraging people to send a direct message to you? Are you encouraging people to fill out a form? What's your form of action? And do you have different actions, or do you just stick to the same? Let me tell you what the name of the game is. The name of the game is to remove the thresholds. Make it easy for people to 100% engage with you. Make it easier for people to engage with you. Make it easier for people to engage with you and say yes to your story and then take the next step. So I can't tell you how many people they want to sell their products and services, but when they go to sell their products and services, they don't really have a framework for their products and services as to how they're going to sell. They just say, you know what, I'm going to hopefully put out this piece and hopefully someone books an appointment and hopefully I'm going to take them to the next level. When the truth is that if we can proactively think about the whole journey at once, then it's easier for us to map our process. So every single conversion process should have roughly about 5 steps. So the first step is that I got you to stop. The second step is that I got you to lean in. The third step is I got you to respond and tell me what you do, what you need, and what problem you have, and what challenge you have. The fourth stop in the sales process is that I'm getting you to allow me to give you an offer. And then the fifth part of it is that you're going to make a decision. You're going to make a decision. Now, sometimes it's easy, like it's hard. It's really easy to realize that there is marketing and stuff of what we do online, but I want to talk a little bit about all the stuff we do offline. Because I will tell you this, if we're willing to acknowledge and say to ourselves, okay, great, everything I do, every place I go, I'm marketing myself. Every time I leave my home, I am marketing myself, my business, my brand, right? And even in something as simple as this, it's like, who else? Like, I have a whole water bottle that just has my name on it. My other water bottles, looking to see if I have one right here. My other water bottles that we were looking at, they have freedom on it. And why? Because I carry a water bottle everywhere. I was about to drink water. I carry a water bottle everywhere. And in me carrying a water bottle everywhere, I'm constantly. So I want you to ask yourself, so here's something else, Tiffany Largie. Now, this is not necessarily just about it being about me. I'm wearing a Do the Damn Thing shirt. I just took off my Do the Damn Thing bracelet, but I'm constantly marketing our products and services everywhere we go, and it's non-negotiable. Even if I get up for the day. It's like, I want you to be clear that half of you being in business and you generating a lead has to do with the markets. There's people around you who have seen your products and services, but they've seen your products and services and they're not 100% sure what they're looking at because it's not consistent. I want you to ask this. I want you to put this in the chat. I need to show up every day when no one's looking, because this is the lesson here. So there are people who have been watching you for a long time and you don't even realize that they're watching you. They're watching to see who you are and what you're doing. And you show up in your business. You show up in your business on good days, but do you show up in your business and in your life every day? Are you showing up like, I am not like this because there was a meeting. I'm dressed like this because 100%, if I'm not on stage, I'm 100% talking about the Do the Damn Thing mission, movement, objective. And I might be on camera. I might meet someone at the door. I might have to head somewhere. Regardless of where I'm going, I need you to show up every day when no one's looking. That's when you show up as a CEO. That's when you're really marketing your business. That's when you're really about this chair and about this life. Because if you do it in pieces, if you do it, the person goes, but they're not consistent. Oh man, but they're not consistent. They're not consistent. I thought they were consistent. They're not consistent. And with that, I say, but you have no one to blame but yourself. You have no one to blame but yourself for you either being inconsistent or people not taking you seriously or not generating the leads.